He should be on white.
Welcome to Drive Time Sports on July the 3rd. Now, this is really an odd deal in that we had the weekend off. July 3rd is a work day. July 4th is an off day. July 5th is back to work again. So today, Randy Rainwater's off today. And so
I thought you said it was a work day.
Well, it is for him, but not for us, but not for him. And then you just heard that voice because it is.
I was not prepared. Sorry.
You weren't prepared. Okay. Well,
my computer.
That's Ray Tucker. Ray's going to play his introduction.
My computer screen was not up. I do want to say this to our listeners here in Little Rock, coming into work on Cantrell and Reservoir in that area, headed west in right-hand lane. There's a van broken down, which may create havoc with the rush hour traffic. So I don't know how long it'll be there. We had a pretty good storm move through central Arkansas.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. Didn't get enough rain there. I don't think there's much wind damage. I saw a lot of pine needles and no limbs, but leaves all over. Sometimes that indicates there was hail. I don't know if we had some or not, but there was a severe thunderstorm warning and moved through here. And there's another one to the west of Little Rock. I don't know. It looks like it's maybe go north of Little Rock. And there is a county up there that I could not identify. I didn't see a warning that's under a storm watch. So anyway, all right, let me see where we are, Rick. That didn't help me at all.
Well, you heard that voice. It's Ray Tucker, brought to you by
Gwatney Buick GMC and North Little Rock next to Sam's Club. Give those folks a shot if you're in the market for a new ride. Don't even hesitate. Head out there, see Lance Brown and the crew, and they will take care of you. I promise you that.
There you go. Well, Ray Tucker's in Central Arkansas. I'm Rick Schaeffer in Northwest Arkansas. With you, one thing about July 4th, you get day baseball, and there's a lot of games tomorrow. It's kind of like Saturday or afternoon where you get all these 3:15 games, a lot of them tomorrow. There are a couple of them this afternoon. I don't know why they're playing this afternoon because it's July 3rd, but the Astros and the Rangers are concluding their series in Arlington. I think the Astros have won 2 of the first 3. So the Astros got 6 in the second. The Rangers got 2 in the third. The Astros got 4 in the fourth. They were leading 10-2. The Rangers tied the game in the 7th, took the lead in the 8th, 11-10. The Astros scored 2 in the 9th, and now the Rangers are batting. It is 12-11. How about that? Hey, how do you like to have a 10-2 lead, and now your team's leading by 1, and you had to score 2 in the 9th to get the lead back? The great thing about baseball.
I don't think I would like that very much at all.
No.
All right, now here we go, Rick. I got to do this now.
Ray Tucker is brought to you by Gwatney Buick GMC.
And they got a double plug today, okay?
How about that? Good for them.
And I took your advice and stopped by Doublebee's. I got some of my favorites here. I've got the Cheetos cheddar jalapeno. Those are my favorite.
Cheddar jalapeno.
And Hostess orange cupcakes. That has been one of my favorites for years.
Well, I can tell you.
So I'm all set.
Much as I love tacos for life, and jalapenos I just can't eat. That's just you might as well just light a match in my mouth if you put those things in there. You know, I know it's the 4th of July, so it's good to have hot stuff, huh?
Oh yeah. I'm past that stage of stopping at a fireworks stand. I'm not telling people not to stop at the fireworks stand, but
I'm just talking about the jalapenos. That's hotter than fireworks, right?
Well, I don't eat jalapenos, but I drink some stuff that has jalapenos in it. So.
That's the same thing.
And it is so good.
Yeah. It's a slow time of year, so anything you want to talk about sports-wise, we obviously are nearing the All-Star break. That is next Tuesday is the actual game. The Major League Baseball draft is coming up before the All-Star game. The Home Run Derby is, and people are starting to sign up. Pete Alonso is in there again. He's already won it twice. He's going to compete. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to compete. You know, so it's going to be a good Home Run Derby, I think. Rushman, the catcher for the Orioles. I don't know if he's that. Yeah, I don't know if he's that big a home run hitter, but
he's hit 12 home runs. Why don't they put him in the home run contest?
I don't know. You know, but I got to tell you, when you're looking at numbers, okay. So this morning I was on with David and Roger this morning because they don't have a show tomorrow. I usually I'm on Tuesdays, and so they're asking about Shohei Ohtani, and Shohei Ohtani is an astonishing athlete. There is no doubt The guy has hit 31 home runs, 31 home runs, and he's also 7-3 as a pitcher, and his batting average is 306. So the All-Star game is regarded as the halfway point, although they're about the halfway point right now. So can he hit 60 home runs? I don't know, but he's on his way. But there are two players in baseball right now, as good as and there are a lot of great players. I like Luis Arias. He's hitting 390 right now, or maybe it's 388 after yesterday for the Miami Marlins. I don't think he's going to hit 400, but 388, that's really good. But there are two players that have totally separated themselves from the rest of the pack, all 700 and however many, 750, whatever it is, Major League Baseball players. One of them is Ohtani. I don't know if you look at box scores very often, Ray. Have you been paying attention to Ronald Acuna Jr.?
The guy's amazing. He's on fire.
For the Braves, this guy, again, we're almost halfway point. He's hitting 336. He has 21 home runs. He has 39 stolen bases. Now, there are just a few guys that are in the 40-40 club, 40 home runs and 40 steals. I think Jose Canseco was the first guy to do that. I think there are just three guys that have done that. I think. I could be wrong. But not many. He's headed for 40-70. Nobody's ever had numbers like that. So when they're talking about Ohtani, nobody's ever done this before. And there's truth to that, because Babe Ruth, when he was a pitcher with the Red Sox, was one of the best pitchers in the American League, had a 2.25 career ERA, 95 wins when he left the Red Sox, went to the Yankees, became a full-time outfielder, but he didn't pitch much with the Yankees. They only threw him out there every now and then late in the season. So he was mostly a hitter. So what Ohtani is doing is very unique. But by the same token, Acuna Jr.'s numbers are close. He's closing in on things we've just never seen before. 40-70.
And the Braves' entire starting infield, correct me if I'm wrong, made the starters for the All-Star game.
Yeah. The Braves are the Braves are the best team in baseball. I think their record is just a hair, but I think they have one less win than Tampa Bay, but I think they got 3 fewer losses. They're really, really good. So those few people that are out there, Brave fans, and I know Justin Moore is, you got to be loving it. It's just like the 90s, when they were winning the division every year. They're winning the division all the time. Their pitching's not what it was in the 90s, but their offense is really, really good. They're a fun team to watch. And again, I know Justin's enjoying that. Okay, so anybody want to call us on any subject? Here you go, 501-661-1037. You might even call us and tell us your best July 4th sports memory. Now, I know that won't involve the Razorbacks because they don't do anything on July the 4th unless they shoot fireworks at somewhere. But if you've got a good July 4th memory, call us with that. Ray's got an assistant coach from Little Rock that's going to join us at 4:30 to talk about basketball camps. Trey Biddy will be with us at 5. And other than that, we have open lines, and we are ready to talk about anything that you would like to
And we
talk
just found out, we've always thought that Pat Bradley was a hot dog, right?
Okay,
and the shooter is at the hot dog eating contest.
He's actually going. He's actually going. Is he participating or is he just going?
I bet he's, well, I don't know. You never know about the shooter.
Well, I can tell you, Pat Bradley, if he competes, will not eat half as many hot dogs as Joey Chestnut. So consider these numbers. Now, I don't know much about eating contests, so I don't know numbers that are big and not great, although I could tell you, what I could do wouldn't be anywhere close to this. But Joey Chestnut holds the major league eating records in 54 categories.
What?
54. It's not just hot dogs with Joey. 54 categories. Okay. On the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest, which is televised by ESPN2, if you can believe that, tomorrow at 11 o'clock, July the 4th. He has won 15 of the last 16. He's won the last 7 straight, and he holds the world record with, get this, what do they do this in 10 minutes, I think? 76 hot dogs. And you eat them in the buns too. 76 hot dogs. He's done over 76 times. You know what the second best by anybody in the history of this contest is?
You know way too much about hot dog eating contests.
54. Nobody else has done more than 54. He's done 76 times. Can you believe that?
Wasn't the Declaration of Independence signed in 1776?
Yeah, that's right.
And he did it on July the 4th. Hey, how about that?
On July 4th, 2021, he ate 76 hot dogs. How many hot dogs can you eat?
2 at a max. Now,
I can eat. I can eat 2 hot dogs.
Is he eating buns too, or just meat?
Yeah, buns too.
Oh my Lord!
They can put mustard on it, ketchup. You can put whatever you want to on it. Somehow he consumes. Okay, so the women's record. There's a girl named Miki Sudu, 48 and a half. 48 and a half. That's 27 and a half fewer than Joey Chestnut. And if you see Joey Chestnut, he does not look like the Blob. Yeah. You know, I don't know how he does it.
What does he have, a conveyor belt in front of him, or they just come by and he just grabs one?
I don't know.
And starts eating.
They just got them all in a big pile. I guess they've got it ready. You can watch it tomorrow at 11, find out. He must have a funnel that just goes from his throat and they all just go straight down or something. Okay, we're gonna let Miss Linda talk. Hi, Miss Linda. Thanks for calling today.
How are you, Linda?
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing great, and you?
I'm doing great. Just got off work. I wanted to wish you both a very safe and happy 4th. And if I remember right, this morning on television, I saw where our new draftees into the NBA, each one is playing one night this week, either on the NBA channel or on ESPN.
Oh, really?
And I believe it starts tonight with Ricky Council plays tonight, I believe, on the NBA. Tomorrow night is Jordan Walsh on ESPN. The following night it is Nick Smith, and then the last night Nick Smith is on NBA, and I believe the last night it's Anthony Black on ESPN, and I believe all the games are due to start at 6 o'clock.
You know, I was reading something on ESPN today, and some writer had broken out every NBA team who they've signed, who they drafted, or it's going to be a standout and whatever. And when I went through Charlotte, they never mentioned Nick Smith.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They mentioned the kid from Alabama, but they didn't mention Nick Smith.
Wow. Goodness. Well, I just happened to see it on the news early this morning before I left home, and I thought I'd just let you guys know what's going on with our draftees.
Well, thank you for that, because again, it's a little bit slower time of year for Razorback sports, so that's something that people can watch if they choose to.
And I
absolutely can't.
I miss your breakfast.
Can't wait to see.
I miss your.
Can't wait to see the guys in uniform, even though it's not a Razorback uniform.
Linda, I miss your breakfast sandwiches and your cheeseburgers. I'm going to tell you.
Well, you know the way out there. I'm always there. You come by and I'll fix you whatever you want.
Lance Brown just texted me from Guatney Buick Jim C. Nick Smith plays tonight on ESPN at 7 o'clock.
Tonight.
Okay, so Nick's tonight. Okay, I'm okay, either I read it wrong or they had their misinformation. But anyway, it's going to be good to see our former Hogs in a uniform.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, Linda.
Thank you, Linda. Always good to hear from you.
Thank you. Be safe.
All right.
Okay. Thanks for calling. All right. Savage's turn. Hi, Savage. Thanks for calling.
What's going on, fellas? You doing all right?
Absolutely. How about you?
Hey, doing good. Just trying to beat this heat sitting by the pool. Ray, looking at ESPN and the people employees they've dumped.
Yeah.
Bunches. But you get rid of, I guess Pollard, Jalen Rose. There's a lot of people that I don't care for, but I like watching them because they're, they just got a different take than what my point of view may be. But I enjoy listening to them. But you're gonna bring back Lee Corso, which the guy's a stick figure. The guy,
yeah.
You prop him up. I mean, he's just literally there as a face.
Yeah.
But you get rid of some of these guys, whether I agree with them or not. I'm not a big Pat McAfee fan, but you're clearing so much cap room to where you're covering this guy. There was a lot of, Lindsey Cohn. I mean, there's a lot of reporters on there. Ray, what's your thoughts on it? I know it's all based around, money, or is it? I mean, you get rid of a lot of popular people on the show.
Well, I watched a deal on YouTube today. A gentleman, I don't remember his name, that used to work for ESPN, and he got cut a while back. He has a podcast or a radio show of some kind. and he was talking about the financial issues with Disney and ESPN, and how many subscribers that they have lost, and it's staggering how many they've lost and how many more they're not making a lot of money off of streaming. And this guy even said that he was wondering if maybe at some point Disney might dump ESPN. I don't know, but they've got issues, and so they're losing all of this. And on the other hand, you got all the networks that are asking for more money, the SEC, the NBA, everything that they've got. And so they're having to pay out more money there. So they're having to cut money someplace, and that's how they're doing it. But I think they took care of these people.
But the money's still the same, though, right? If you're going to pay Pat McAfee that load of money, if you spread that out between the people that they got rid of, the money's really not the same. You're just dumping a lot of people off, correct?
I would think McAfee and Stephen A. Smith are going to be making so much more than anybody else on ESPN. It's going to be ridiculous. Now, other than
Stephen A. is the highest paid.
Maybe Kirk Herbstreit, maybe those guys that work games. But you're right. But the odd thing is, and you're right, it's all a Disney issue, because ESPN, as I understand it, they are not as profitable as they used to be. But even with cord cutting, they're figuring out ways that you can stream just ESPN, so you can pay just for ESPN. And basically you're going to be paying what you paid on your cable bill. There are ways that they can make some money, but the other Disney properties, it's my understanding that the last 6 Disney movies that were made lost the grand total of $900 million. So, and it used to be you threw out Snow White and Cinderella and they were making all kinds of money, but they're not quite, they're a little bit more politically correct these days. They're losing money. And then ABC is actually hemorrhaging worse than ESPN is, because when you cut the cable, you're probably not going to pick up ABC, but if you're streaming, you still might pick up ESPN. All of those are Disney properties. And so that's where they're hurting. But I agree with you, Savage. I mean, you're still going to have to pay salaries to people who go on the air. I don't know if that means they're going to hire people fresh out of college to do all these jobs, or people that are all 26 or 28 years old. I really don't know what they're going to do.
Right, because your problem is still there if it's money.
Yeah.
You're still paying out. You're still paying people. You're just paying one person more instead of paying 3 the same salary.
Right.
But you're cutting out a lot of popular people. Like I said, I don't agree with Paul. I don't like Pollard. I can't stand Lee Corso because, he's just he is the mascot. That's it. He brings nothing to the table.
You're correct.
But,
and Herbstreit loves him.
That's just.
Yeah, I got to believe that's a deal where those guys just said, look, you can't cut him. I'm guessing he's probably on a much reduced salary. He's just out there. And unfortunately, Dick Vitale, who was such a giant for so many years, is not what he used to be on the air either. But it's interesting they would keep those guys, and yet you got Susie Kobler, who was on their network for 29 years, and you cut her when she's still highly competent.
Susie's my favorite. And I can't believe they cut her.
Absolutely. All right, guys. I appreciate the time.
All right, Savage. Thanks for calling.
I just got this. Lance sent this to me. McAfee 36 recently signed a massive 5-year, about $85 million contract with a television platform. The Pat McAfee Show will now air on ESPN every weekday starting this fall. I didn't get the rest of that to talk about about
so
the
that's $17 million.
Here's the tough part, being in television, being at ESPN as long as these people have. Now, my understanding, they're going to, I guess, pay them for a year or whatever their contracts are.
They're going to pay them until their contracts up.
Contracts are up. But if you're nationally and you're on ESPN, where do you go from there? Some people may hook up with somebody, but you look at local television, these people aren't going to end up at local television stations.
No.
The pay difference is quite a bit.
There are guys that have done it. Colin Cowherd went to Fox, I believe, and so did Skip Bayless. Went to Fox. They just had better offers.
But we're talking about an awful lot of people here, Rick.
Yeah, I got to believe that the best of the best may end up at another network. But yeah, you're right. If there's 30 of them that have been fired, that might be 4 or 5. And the other people, where do you go? I don't know.
You have to believe there are other people that have been laid off too.
They're in their production teams.
Oh yes,
yeah. Oh yeah, they were going to lay off at least 300 people.
Now I was visiting with our friend Joe Klein the other day, and was telling me I don't know if I don't. He didn't say this in confidence. I don't think our friend Jimmy Dykes got a call, and they signed him to a new contract.
Well, good. I was thinking about Jimmy. The difference with Jimmy is he is not a salaried employee. I'm guessing he's a contract guy. And so therefore they're paying him by the game. They might not have to pay him benefits. I don't know. I haven't talked to Jimmy about that, but that's one way they can do it, is just say, okay, we're going to give you 50 basketball games this year. We're paying you this much per game. And I'm sure it's a very healthy salary. But as contract labor, and obviously they pay his expenses to get to the games and stuff like that. But I'm really glad to hear that. It's interesting because Stephen A. Smith, who I like, now not all the time, but I do like him for the most part. And I do listen to him some, and he's very opinionated, I know. But he's a little more relaxed with listening to other people's opinions than he used to be. But then when Christopher Mad Dog Russo is on with him, I was reading a deal on Russo that he gets paid $10,000 per appearance. And that's every week, probably for 50 weeks. That's $500,000 right there for a guy that's on 3 hours a week. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. And it's amazing that we've got another caller, and we'll take it when we get back. You can call us when we return on Drive Time Sports.
All right, Rick, we'll catch up with Saracens Casino Resort here a little bit later on.
Oh, okay. Very good. All right. Well, I know Ray's also got a guest coming up, but Snake's been holding for a while. So maybe if we can take Snake first and then
all right,
we'll
I hope.
hear from.
All right, Coach Laird, if I happen to lose you,
yeah, we'll just put him on hold.
Hang in there. All right, Snake, go ahead.
Yes.
All right, Snake, you're on the air.
Thank you. Ray, let's talk a little Trojan basketball. We've had
you're about to.
3 really bad years coming up, but it sounds like we've gone out and gotten some players. What's the update? Who's coming back? Jefferson coming back? Who's coming back? And tell us about the new players coming in.
All right,
Well,
here's
Snake,
what
we're gonna
timing's perfect.
Disconnect you because Ray's got a perfect interview to answer all your questions. So thanks for calling, Snake.
All right,
go ahead, Ray.
Assistant coach Preston Laird joins us. Assistant coach Daryl Walker out at UA Little Rock. Preston played his college ball at Memphis with John Calipari. Has been across the country, several places, UNLV, New Mexico State, I believe it is. And he's been here. What's this, your 4th or 5th year, Coach?
Starting my 5th year, Ray.
That's what I thought. Anyway, basketball camps are going on. Snake has some questions there. Let's promote the camps first, and then we'll get to the players you've signed if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So we had a great turnout in June for our Darrell Walker basketball camp. We've got another camp coming up at the end of July. The only difference is it's a 2-day camp. Starts July 31st, that Monday, and then ends August 1st. So just a Monday, Tuesday. The first camp in June, we didn't have our new court ready, but the camp at the end of the month, we will have the new court and the Jack Stevens Open for the campers. So we'll have the Derek Fisher practice court and then the Joe Foley court ready to go. So excited to have access to both courts for the second camp. Not only that, but we have our players on campus for the summer session. We got a lot of new faces. So looking forward to the campers getting to get demonstrations and taught fundamental skills from our current Trojans on the roster as well. So a lot of exciting things coming up, and looking forward to having another good camp at the end of this month.
What age groups are you looking at?
So we take anywhere from 8 to 18. So 8 to 18 years old. Now, most of the kids that want to come to the camp are probably somewhere between 10 and 13, but we do not turn away the younger or the older kids.
If I attend, well, I'm a little too old for that, but if I were to attend one of the camps, what would I take away from there?
So again, we're big on the skill development. We focus a lot on station work for instruction from the current Trojan players. Dribble, passing, shooting, defense, footwork is a big one that we emphasize as well. But then we also want to play games. I mean, now the campers, they love to play games. Everybody loves to play the games. But, we're big on development with our players here. We like to incorporate decisions and defense with what we do. And the best way to get decision-making and defense is to play games. So we put our campers in different kinds of games, whether it's 1-on-1, 3-on-3, 5-on-5. That's where they can really practice the skills that they've been working on in the station work.
All right. The previous caller, Preston, if you just tuned in, we're visiting with Preston Laird, assistant coach, men's basketball coach at UA Little Rock. Caller Snake wanted to know about the current players, the guys who stayed, and some of the newcomers.
Yeah, so we've got 3 returners. We've got Jordan Jefferson, who'll be in his 3rd year. He'll be a junior. We've got Ante Belhan, who'll be a sophomore this year. He's a freshman last year for us. Came off the bench and played spot minutes, but looking for him to make a good jump this year. We've got DeAnthony Gordon, who was, by the end of the year, was arguably our best player. Ended the season at Lindenwood with 30-plus points for us and was a second-team all-conference caliber player. So we're looking forward to him being a first-teamer this year and leading us.
If you would talk about some of the new signees.
Yeah, so we've got a very balanced, diverse class that's coming this year. We went out and we wanted some younger kids, but we wanted to get older. And that's just where college basketball is going these days. So we signed some transfers. Some of the transfers include Jameer Chaplin from South Florida. He was a 3-year player at South Florida, so he's older. He's about 22 years old. He's older, experienced. Been through some battles in the American Conference. We also went out and got KK Robinson. Obviously, a lot of people are familiar with KK. He's not only a former Razorback, but he's local to Little Rock. So he's been experienced, played at some high levels at Oak Hill,
national prep school out of Virginia, and then played at the Power 5 level for the past few years. So him coming home is just a great fit for our program, and it fills a need for us and him. So we've got them, and then we've got Mikael Mitchell coming in, also another former Razorback. His brother Makai is a current Razorback. So, keeping it in Arkansas, but he's a big body, physical post player. Before Arkansas, he was at Rhode Island, averaging a double-double, in the A10. So another guy that's just experienced. And you're just going to hear us keep talking about being old and experienced. And those transfers, along with our returners, are going to lead the charge there. We've also got a couple junior college guards that played 3 years at the JUCO level. So, they're not your typical 20-year-olds. Both of them are 22-year-olds that have been playing, college basketball for the last 3 years, putting up some really good numbers. At Barton Community College, we've got Cougar Downing. He's got a tremendous jump shot, really good range on his jumper, and a really underrated scorer outside of his ability to shoot basketball. And then we've got Bradley Douglas, who, it's funny, Coach and I talk about him a lot. He's kind of got an old man's game, but he's very physical perimeter player, and you don't see that a lot. He relies on his strength and physicality on the perimeter, both on the offense and the defensive end. But we're excited to bring in those two JUCO players. So again, just trying to get old and experienced on our roster.
I've had people. Go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
Let me ask Preston, because we don't get a chance to ask a coach this very often. We talk to some basketball experts, and the Razorbacks are doing this. Everybody's doing it. Is this a trend that you think is going to continue long term, that you'd rather have a 20-year-old who's played some than an 18-year-old out of high school?
Yeah, I think so. I do. You see it with all the I call them the COVID babies, but they got extra years of eligibility. So the programs that picked up some of the COVID, whether they retained them or they brought in the transfers, that extra year of experience. I mean, you saw it in the NCAA tournament. There was so much parity within the tournament because you had so many low major to mid major programs that were just older. And it's just a maturity and, again, experience that just carries you, and that's where you can see some of the upset. So I personally do think it. I think what this has started is everything's, annual now. Scholarships have been annual for years now, but what you're going to see happen is you're going to see programs that, they're unafraid of the turnover, right? So, like for us, we signed 10 new guys this year. And there's probably some programs out there that signed, you get 13 scholarships. There's probably some programs out there that signed 12, maybe even 13. And I think you're going to see rosters just turn over, and people are going to go out and recruit older players and transfers from the portal annually now, which, is tough for fan bases. And we spend a lot of time in the office up here talking about how can we engage our fan base so that they, can expedite the process for learning about our players. And that's something we're currently in the process of doing, but it's harder because the roster turns over so much and fans are like, well, that's a new face. And then they look up and the entire team's new. So it's tough, but I do, to answer your question, I think this is going to be a reoccurring theme now, as long as this portal's around.
Hey, if you win, they don't care if your roster turns over. They're just happy to see winning teams. And, but the other thought there is, the 18-year-old coming out of high school, he's got to get a year or two of experience before he can get into the transfer portal. So what are the best what are the best things for those guys as they're coming out of high school and they're not 5 stars? What's best for them?
Well, I mean, it's finding the right fit. Like we have one on our team, and Creed Williamson, Corliss' son.
Yeah, sure.
We were watching some of our guys do some testing today, and he does not look like a freshman. I mean, so some of that's on those high school kids too, to put more time and emphasis into their strength and conditioning programs like Creed has done. Yeah. It just helps them transition into college basketball, because again, college basketball is older than it's ever been. But finding a good fit, like Creed coming to Little Rock is a really good fit for him. At his position, we have some experienced guys, like I've already talked about, that are going to, more than likely be in front of him to start. and we'll see what happens as he continues to develop. But those players, going up against those players, is going to be just tremendous for his development down the road. And that's we have not turned away high school kids. A lot of programs have. They will not recruit high school kids whatsoever. Now, if you're recruiting high school players for your starting five, you're probably going to be in trouble, just based on what we've already talked about. But if you feel good about your top 9 guys, I personally believe that you get into 10, 11, 12, 13, that's when you could start going, hey, look, let's bring in, a player from high school that we think may be able to contribute right away. If he doesn't, then we'll see where we're at. I mean, there's another element here that I think you're going to start seeing more of, which is redshirting those freshmen so that they don't burn a year of their eligibility. I think that's a great luxury to have. If you could bring in a high school kid and you get a couple months to kind of see him in practice, see how he stacks up, see how he's doing. And then if you can tell early on, hey, look, he's going to be a great player down the road, but let's not burn his year. These top 9 are pretty much locked in. Let's give him a red shirt.
Preston, we got a couple of minutes before we go to break here. I'd like to keep you in another segment. If you would talk about Creed Williamson's game, describe it to us.
Yeah, I think he fits Coach Walker really well. He's a power basketball player. He's a post basketball player. He's an explosive power big that has a back to the basket game, that plays at the rim. We've never been afraid of throwing the ball into the post, and that's something that we're going to continue to do here, especially with Mikkel coming in to play for us, and obviously BA returning. So our front court is very back to the basket oriented in terms of post play, and I think Creed fits that really well. And Coach Baker and I watched a lot of film on Creed, and we all saw that pretty quickly, that he fits our system. And again, he's not, when you see him, I don't know if you've seen him, Ray, when you see him, you'd be like, hey, who is that? That's not a freshman. I mean, he's done a really great job committing to the weight room at an early age. And again, just fits who we are and how we want to play.
His dad didn't look like a freshman when he came to campus either. And, You know what you've done by signing his son. You have forced Corliss to go back into coaching again. Can you believe that?
Yeah, he got a job. We were happy for him. He got a job with the Timberwolves. We were happy for him.
Well, Preston, if you can stay with us, I've got several questions in what you've been talking about. So hang on there. And
no problem.
Anybody wants to call in about Little Rock basketball or just has a basketball question? This is pretty fascinating conversation. And we'll rejoin Preston Laird and Ray Tucker after this on Drive Time Sports. Yeah, Bear. You there? Okay. Oh, there they are. What do you think, huh? What do you think, Bear? Think, baby? You can go back out. Commercial. Good, huh?
My head just has to process it all. The Claytons are wiring $250,000 this week. Jeff's sending over our contract with the new entity name and if nothing changes. He's anticipating my wire to cross this week. Bank information, everything should be the same. But that's a blip compared to what happened on that last week with David Villarreal, Marvel Studios, Larry Ellison, who's head of, I don't know, I've read about him. He's a billionaire. So I don't know. You know how something is so big you can't get your hand around it?
Yeah.
But it's all go. And where God closes that door.
That's exactly right.
Where's God's perfect time?
That's exactly right.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, praise God in heaven. That's great. Hallelujah. Randy's out today, and the great thing about sports is it doesn't matter what season it is, baseball, football, basketball, eating is always in season. And eating at Tacos for Life is one of the most fun things, most enjoyable things, and one of the most blessing things that you can ever do. Because for every meal that you buy at Tacos for Life, every one of them, Tacos for Life furnishes a meal for some food insufficient person all over the world. Families benefit, communities benefit. It's just amazing. They're headed for 31 million people, 31 million meals that they have provided through the years because you chose to eat at Tacos for Life. Now, why would you choose to eat there? Maybe because you don't even know you're helping somebody. It's because it's so darn good. That's why. They've got all these great tacos on the menu, including the Hawaiian shrimp taco. You can get it grilled, you can get it fried, you can get it however you want to. You're going to love whatever you order at Tacos for Life. Try it today. Welcome back to Drive Time Sports. Ray Tucker is in Central Arkansas. I'm Rick Schaeffer in Northwest Arkansas. And Ray was good enough, knowing we didn't have Randy today, and really Trey Biddy is our only other guest, to get Preston Laird on. And Preston, you've hit some pretty interesting topics. I have to ask you, after we were talking about the 18-year-old, you brought up with something I had never thought of before. And that is, if you say get a 2 or 3 star player, you're probably not going to do it with a 5-star. If he's willing to redshirt and gives you a decent second year, his third year, he is a 20-year-old if you can keep him around. Is that go into your thought process?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of worked its way back to where it was a long time ago. When you came in as a freshman, you weren't allowed to play on that freshman team. You weren't allowed to play on the varsity team.
You're not that old. You are not that old.
But you saw some of that, right? So, I feel like it's these high school players, it was really hard for them, especially that 2022 class, to, think about when they're freshmen or sophomores in high school, and the best player on their team, went to a Power 5 program.
Yeah.
And the future for that freshman or sophomore, everybody was telling them, they're going to be better, it's brighter. And then, COVID happened and everybody got an extra year. So they're looking up, comparing their journey to what they think it should have been. And then COVID just reset everything. And now they're going, wow, I'm not having near the interest, near the offers that, I anticipated having. So it made it really hard for those 2022 and 2023, high school seniors in their college recruitment. So it kind of reset everything. So, when you're in conversations with players, PSAs, and parents about playing at a Division I institution, you see a lot of gratitude and humility nowadays when you're talking to parents and their high school seniors because of how everything has been reset. So, just being transparent up front and saying, look, hey, here's where we think the plan is. Now, you know, for us personally, I'm not speaking on Creed or Jalen Crocker or Nikola Nosovich.
Sure.
Those, you know, I feel good about what we've done in terms of recruiting high school players that can kind of conquer that transition quicker than most. But for other programs, you know, I think the transparency is a good approach. Like, hey, look, we love your son's or daughter's potential. You know, we think they're going to be a great player for us. But we'd like to bring them in, redshirt them, get them a year within the program. And I think you're going to see that a lot more. And I think players and parents of players and high school coaches are going to welcome that opportunity.
That brings up the whole idea of player development instead of player being ready. As a coach, do you love doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the development piece, that's part of the journey, right? Like, that's part of the reward, especially when you can see the results, you know, of the players that you're working with. But yeah, it's tougher these days because everything's happening so fast now, right? Like, we're all trying to recruit players that can help us win right away.
Yeah.
So there is still development going on. There's just, you know, a less emphasis on you know, the time dragging out. It's right now. So, you know, we approach this thing as like, okay, we've got them in the summer, and we really hammer on our development. Now, this year we're actually going to be able to go into a foreign tour, so we're going to get some additional practice time, which is going to be huge for, you know, our group. We've talked a lot about experience, right? Well, this group doesn't have experience together yet, so being able to go on a foreign tour is going to help us get experience together moving forward. So we're excited about that. But yeah.
And Ray knows the answer to this, but I don't. Where are you going?
I don't
we're
know.
Going to Italy. Yeah,
you're going to Italy.
Nobody's told
me.
me.
To Italy. Yeah,
great.
To,
are you taking your radio guy with you? I think he'd probably love to go.
No, that's above my pay grade. So Ray knows who to call to make that
happen. Let's talk about, you made the jump from the Sun Belt to Ohio Valley Conference. Talk about that move.
Yeah, so it's been a good move for us regionally because it you know, I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with the OVC, but you've got Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas schools, and I might be missing one, but it essentially turns it into Indiana. It turns it into a bus league. It's all regionally located, not very many flights, which is, you know, great for a few reasons. It's cost effective for the school and the budget in school, so that's good. It's also less travel time, which, you know, can get tough in season for our student athletes when you're talking about classes, and when you're spending a lot of time on planes and traveling distances that are schools that are tough to get to. It can take away from studies. So, you know, those two things right there alone make it a great move for us. The competition in the OVC has been a lot better than we anticipated, and the pace of play. The OVC is actually one of the fastest playing leagues in the country, and that's been an adjustment for us as well. But that first year we got it under our belt. We're feeling good going the off season with the personnel that we brought in, and having a good feel for the league. But it's an exciting league. It's a fun league, and we're looking forward to year two.
Rick, I can tell you, we had a lot of long bus rides in that league, and we did it in the Sun Belt also. We had a trip from Heck. Once this year, we took us, what was 16 or 18 hours, Preston?
Which one was it, Ray?
The one we went to Morehead State.
Oh yeah, that's a long ride, no doubt. 16 or 18, it all gets blurry up there.
It's a long story, Rick. It's not norm for that trip.
It's not. You know, it's interesting because I used to ride buses with the Razorback baseball team back when they were riding buses before they rode planes, and I love to read books. So, Ray, that's your opportunity to catch up on your reading when you make those trips, right? Now, coaches can't. You got to be watching tape, right?
You know, they do. And I'll tell you what, Daryl's a big reader. He loves to read. And I bought a new laptop computer just so I can watch movies. And it makes the trips go by real fast. I can tell you that.
How about that?
And if you're winning, they go by real fast.
All right.
And hopefully they go by real fast this year.
There's nothing like a happy bus.
That's exactly right. There's nothing worse than a disgruntled bus either. So
no,
you want to.
Right.
You're right about that. Happy.
Okay, so I'm going to give you both a tip then. Preston, are you a baseball fan at all?
I don't pay attention to baseball. No.
Then close your ears. Ray, next time you're on the trip, by then you'll be able to stream this movie about Yogi Berra. And, Preston, even if you're not a big baseball guy, it's a real family movie. And it's called It Ain't Over. It's got humor, it's got family, and it does have baseball. So that'd be a good one for you to stream on your next trip, right?
You know what, Rick? Last Wednesday, the Riverdale, right 3 minutes here from the station or closer, was showing that movie at 3 o'clock.
How'd you go?
No, I had plans and I couldn't go, and I couldn't find it again on their rundown.
Wow.
And so surely they didn't just show it one time. I'll keep shopping. I do want to see that.
Yeah, you'll like it. You'll like it. Well, Preston, thank you very much for joining us today. This was a real pleasant surprise. And you want to give
thanks for having me, guys.
Give us a little bit more information on your camp again. Somebody who wants to sign up, how do they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just visit our athletics website, lrtrojans.com, and you can follow the additional links or type camps in the search bar, and you'll get to the registration page. But the camp is a 2-day camp, July 31st and August 1st. That's a Monday and Tuesday. It starts at 12 p.m. and ends at 4:30, and we take anybody from 8 to 18 years old.
What better way to close your summer and get ready for school, right? 2 days with the Trojan staff. That'd be great. Preston, thank you very much for the time today.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach P.
Ray Tucker and I will be back after this break, and we'll have Trey Biddy with us at 5:05. Welcome back to Drive Time Sports. Randy Rainwater's out today, and then, of course, July 4th is tomorrow. He'll be back on Wednesday, and in the meantime, we've got 2 intros to play, so let's play them both.
Ray Tucker on Drive Time Sports is brought to you by Gwatney Buick GMC. Now to Trey Biddy, brought to you by Asher Wrecker Service, 501-562-2293. Family owned and operated since 1980. Asher Wrecker, dependable towing and vehicle recovery service. Ask for Asher.
Well, Trey, do you love this time of year when things are fairly slow?
Well, July 4th is coming up. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of slow, but I mean, you got 2 commitments possibly tomorrow for Arkansas. You got another one, maybe the 10th. I mean, 14th. There's a lot of commitments. It's kind of like they're setting them up in June and knocking them over in July. As far as sports go, for me, it's pretty calm. I mean, I heard you talking about the hot dog eating contest tomorrow, which is disgusting.
Yeah.
You obviously haven't watched them do this. I mean,
No.
someone shoving 76 hot dogs down their throat.
Gosh.
It's not even, just the hot dog. It's the bread.
Yeah.
To me, like wet bread is so disgusting, and they're dipping these buns in water and shoving these wet buns down their trap.
Now, why do
It's
they do
so
that?
gross, and
Why
it's
do they-
cheating.
Well, why do they dip it in water?
Because it helps with obviously
Oh, it's
wet
like a
bread
liquid.
versus
Yeah,
the
okay.
liquid. It's
yeah.
cheating. I don't think you should be allowed to do it. I think you should have to eat the hot
What is
dog
that?
without any. If you want to take a drink, you can take a drink, but you can't
Well, that
dip
takes
the
time.
hot dog bun. You have to eat it in a traditional manner. That's what I think.
Wow. So you probably don't like cork bats and deflated footballs or any of that either. I mean, if you're wetting your bun, that's just not fair, huh?
I attended the.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really have as strong a stance on deflated footballs as I do on wet hot dog buns. I think it's just disgusting.
I attended the Bradley County tomato eating contest one year,
Yeah.
where you're just stuffing tomatoes in there. If you think hot dogs are gross, you should see that episode.
Wow.
And I can't tell you how many of them didn't make it through there without being sick.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not even talking about the hot dog. I'm talking about the bread. The bread to me is just the most disgusting part of it.
Well,
Just like
Wow.
water splashing everywhere, shoving wet bread down your mouth.
I'll never ask to break bread with you, Trey.
Is that how you do it?
Just don't water it down on the way in. That's amazing. Well, we now know where Trey Biddy stands on the hot dog eating contest.
That's an
Maybe you'd
official
like
stance.
better. Hey, maybe you would like better the chicken wing contest. I don't know if you can wet those down or not, but you know that Joey Chestnut once ate 182 chicken wings in 30 minutes.
What defines a clean chicken wing?
Oh no, I've never seen any of this stuff. I'm just
Is it-
reading about it and I'm getting these numbers.
There's a certain art form to removing the meat off of a chicken wing, but some people a clean chicken wing isn't what another person would define as a clean chicken wing. I think a pie eating contest, maybe that's something that.
All right,
It
how
would be
about
pretty hard
Twinkies
to-
then? Okay, Joey Chestnut holds the record for Twinkies.
Are they wet? They're wet. You know he's shoving
121
wet
listen
Twinkies
to
down
this
his
one.
throat.
121 Twinkies in 6 minutes.
They had to be wet.
121 Twinkies.
Were they
in 6
fried
minutes.
Twinkies like you get at the fair?
I don't know. Man, I've never heard of anybody accused of cheating in eating contests. This is all new to me.
I just think it's this. I think you should have to eat it the way it's intended to be eaten. And again, you can take a sip of something, but you can't drown the hot dog bun or the Twinkie in water and shove it down your mouth.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, speaking of shoving things, the SEC will be shoving media days down your throat in what, 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Can you wait that long before you get a lot of copy?
I can wait. I'm trying to. I always think it's important this time of year, and I learned this when I was young. In the summer, to obviously I'm working, but not to go full throttle.
Yeah.
Because once August gets here, and that's kind of, for media, that's kind of how you're introduced to football season is 24 practices in 29 days. I'm not saying it's any harder than the players are going through, but you can get kind of worn out pretty quick if you don't make sure to enjoy yourself a little bit, spend some time with your family, play some golf, or those kinds of things. So yeah, I can definitely wait. We are 15 days until Sam Pittman takes the stand there, and who's he going to bring? That's always a question I like to ask.
I'll bet he brings KJ Jefferson.
Well, he brought KJ last year also.
I'll bet he brings him again.
Well, it was a big question last year because there are two approaches. Some coaches just take their star players, award candidates. Some coaches look at it as senior reward day, which it's not. It's media day. You should take the best players, award candidates, people who represent your team well. It's not senior reward day. I'm just going to take seniors. Brett Bielema had that policy. I think John L. did that also his year. I think Chad Morris did as well. So I think Pittman was the last guy since maybe Petrino. I don't know if Petrino, I can't remember if he took just seniors. I don't think he did, because Ryan Mallett, I believe, went one year and he wouldn't have been a senior. So if you have a returning starter at quarterback, you should almost certainly take your quarterback. I think Rocket Sanders makes a lot of sense to bring. He's just a junior, but the dude is an awards candidate and he represents the team well. And then I think it gets really tricky, because if you just say who's the next most deserving player on the team, I think you probably say Brady Latham. But Brady Latham is an offensive player, and I think it's more important that you have representation for both sides of the ball. Yeah. Although Bielema one year, he just brought offensive players. But I think it's more important, if you're going to bring like a lineman, you need to bring a skill guy also. You don't need to bring two linemen on offense. Or if you just bring, one player on offense and he's a lineman, I think that's a mistake too. I think you need to bring a skill guy on offense. So the candidates for defense, if you bring Rocket Sanders and KJ Jefferson, who's the best candidate on defense? Is it Hudson Clark? Hudson has probably the most starts under his belt as a returning senior. I believe he was a USA Today All-SEC pick even. A lot of people don't know that. USA Today had him as that. But Hudson, he's not a big talker. Is it Ladarius Bishop? Ladarius isn't, or excuse me, not Ladarius, but
he missed last year.
Yeah, he missed last year, but not Ladarius, but Dwight, the other guy who started last year for him. Dwight, he's not a big talker either. And to be honest, guys, we've had 2 interviews with Dwight McLaughlin. He's a 13-game starter, and we've only talked to him 2 times. So he's not a big talker. And, on the offensive side, also Bo Limmer, probably not a big talker either. It's Zach Williams. He's a super senior. He came back, started some games for him last year. In the same hand, Jashad Stewart's a senior defensive end. Is he an option there? Landon Jackson might be an award candidate. Torian Carter is a good talker. He's a senior. Eric Gregory's a multi-year starter. But I think the guy I would go with a redshirt sophomore named Pooh Paul. I think Pooh Paul really represents the team well. I think he's got a good shot at being named a team captain. He didn't start a whole lot of games last year, but he played a whole lot. And he had like 60-something tackles, 4.5 sacks, something like that. And I always viewed him as a guy that's like a spokesperson of the team, So that's who I would take. I would take Pooh Paul, Rocket Sanders, and KJ Jefferson if it were up to me.
Well, that sounds good. I'm sure they're taking suggestions, although not at the moment. It's interesting, before you got into that, you mentioned at this time of year you need to take some time off. I don't know how often you look at Twitter. I never post, but I do read it, and I'll hit some likes on some things. But I was read somebody this weekend was complaining that Sam Pittman and his wife were in Hot Springs because, there's recruiting to be done and all that. And then somebody responded to him, it's a dead period. Is it okay for the coaches to go get some relaxed time? And which made me start thinking is, do they used to be able to do that. Do they ever get downtime? And even when they're away, can recruits text them, or do they still have to be on the alert all the time?
Yeah, the recruit can text them anytime.
Yeah.
So, if you find a window in that business to get away for a little bit and enjoy some time with your wife, or, you got to take it. And everybody has interesting opinions, especially on Twitter. And I've seen, athletes post about something, and I'll look at the responses, and somebody's always going to say something like, "Hey, you need to be worried about football. Like, you can't worry about anything else but football." It's just amazing the opinions people have. You have to. It is very important to sleep. Sleeping is important, right? Some people on Twitter would view sleeping as slacking off. Like, you need to sleep. You got to recharge your batteries. You got to make sure it's your own personal health in the immediate and long term, getting good sleep, getting some relaxation, and making sure that you're ready to go when it's time to go. And that's the bottom line. But yeah, people have interesting opinions on social media.
They have no earthly idea how many hours these guys work.
No
idea.
And they're never off the clock.
Think about this. CEOs of major companies, Walmart, Tyson, J.B. Hunt, where you can name them all, GM, any of them, have boards. And those boards are responsible for almost forcing them to take off if they're not taking off, because they know how high the demand is for someone in that position. And so therefore they want you to take time off, because if you work 52 weeks a year, you're going to burn out so fast that you're not going to be valuable to that company. Why would it be any different for a football coach?
Sam Pittman has paid his dues, and he's got a really, really, really nice place on Lake Hamilton.
Mm-hmm. And everybody knows where it is because he put that big hog statue.
Yep.
That's right. So if it is a non-contact time, when can the coaches then now establish contact? Obviously, recruits can call them. When can they start contacting recruits again?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I know August 1st, I believe, is when. Now, there are different rules. We talk about no contact and stuff, dead periods. That doesn't have anything to do with phone calls and stuff. It's just about face-to-face meetings,
Okay.
And
so you can still call them then.
You can still, I can't remember there are limitations, there are still rules against that, like, certain holidays and stuff like that. But there are limitations, and I can't remember. I need to brush up on the rules, because I start thinking about this about every time this year. Just about how often they can contact them during the week and stuff. But I believe it's August. I think it's August 1st when you can extend formal scholarship offers to high school seniors, rising high school seniors.
Okay.
Like, you can't even extend a formal written scholarship offer until just before these guys' senior year. So everybody that you see that says they have a scholarship offer, there's nothing in writing right now.
They know. They know they've got a scholarship if they want it, right?
Well, some of them do and some of them don't.
Yeah,
I've seen many cases where kids make commitments.
Yeah.
And only to find out later that is not a committable offer. Or, no, we said we want to offer you. We didn't say we did offer you. We said we want to. But that's how coaches operate now. They have to. It's unfortunate, because a kid will cut you these days before you have a chance to evaluate them.
Yeah.
So you have to offer them before you're ready, and just hope that they don't jump on it.
Okay. You mentioned at the outset of the program a couple commits coming up maybe tomorrow. Tell us about them.
Ashton Bethel Roman, the big-time guy, big-time wide receiver out of Texas, Missouri City. Let me see if I can bring up the list here, because Danny's got the announcement dates. So Ashton Bethel Roman is the number 92 ranked prospect in the country. He's deciding at 4:00 tomorrow between Arkansas, Texas Tech, and Oregon. A lot of Oregon in the mix with Arkansas. He's the number 92 ranked prospect in the country, number 18 wide receiver, number 16 in Texas. Things are looking good there, actually. Chris Johnson, who's announcing at, I believe he told Danny, 7:00 today. But Chris Johnson, who is a top 500 prospect, just shy of 4-star status. Dad was an NFL player. He's got Arkansas, Arizona State, and Oregon for him also. He's out of Texas, 6'1", 180. He had actually changed his, decided not to commit that day, and then went back and then tried to, and decided to go ahead and announce. So Fletcher Westfall, who visited, I believe, on the 23rd, Clemson, Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, Auburn for him. He's out of Virginia, so Arkansas hasn't had a whole lot of success out in Virginia, but Arkansas has been recruiting him very heavily. Alex Foster on July 10th, Baylor, Arkansas, and Georgia Tech. He's out of Greensville, Mississippi. Things look pretty good for him. I think Arkansas is in pretty good shape with him, just talking to Danny. And then Brian Huff, who's out of Valley View in Jonesboro. He's down to Missouri, Arkansas, UCF, UNLV. He's a 4-star composite linebacker. He visited Arkansas on June 9th. He also visited Missouri and UCF. So
I need to just
those
stop
are just
right
coming up.
there. Linebackers, sign every one of them. Sign every linebacker that's any good whatsoever, right?
Exactly.
So
and they've already got one 4-star linebacker committed. And, there's a couple others, that, Wyatt Simmons, I think, could possibly be 4-star at some point. Braylon Russell committing on July 14th, running back out of Benton.
Big one.
Yeah, 22 running back in the country, number 4 overall prospect in Arkansas, 4-star recruit. He's down to Arkansas, Tennessee, South Carolina, Texas A&M, and Baylor. You've got Kendall Jackson a little later on July 20th, and Kendall is from Gainesville, Florida. So pretty far out. He's got some crystal ball locks to picks to Florida, Arkansas, Florida, Kentucky, Miami are the schools in the mix for him. He visited Arkansas on June 9th. So that's all the way out to the 20th. You've also got DJ Barber, who's one to watch, and then Danny also lists Wyatt Simmons out of Searcy, who we just talked about, as maybe a guy to watch also sometime this month, possibly.
So isn't it interesting that we're talking about guys committing when, and obviously I'm guessing they've already visited the campus because they can't right now, right? Unless they do it on their own.
Right. They could come up on campus. They just couldn't meet with the coaches and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's also interesting, the geography that you just mentioned. I mean, we think of the prime recruiting areas obviously are Texas and Arkansas, maybe Oklahoma, Louisiana, and you're talking about some areas other than those.
Oh yeah, there's definitely more of a southeast feel to this newer Arkansas Sam Pittman coaching staff. I mean, Mississippi and Alabama, Florida, Georgia's been there for a while now, obviously with Pittman's connections there, and Scott Fountain and Jimmy Smith. But no, there's no question. I mean, Texas is always going to be important, but there's a lot of, SEC players come from SEC states generally. And so Arkansas has definitely kind of adopted that philosophy, even though they might not be as close as some of the other schools there. They're still throwing their hat in the ring.
I don't know that we've asked you this question. Maybe we have, maybe Randy did, and I wasn't paying enough attention, but when you think about recruiting Texas, which is always important to Arkansas, what do you think Texas and Oklahoma coming into the SEC, will it enhance Arkansas's recruiting in Texas, or will it make it more difficult?
I have no idea. Kind of a wait and see. That's what they said about Texas A&M, and I didn't see that as helping Arkansas. Texas A&M coming to the SEC was just going to increase Arkansas's exposure. I think Arkansas kind of went from being the team that, was the closest SEC school to Texas to, another SEC school with Texas A&M in the mix there. So we'll see. And that was a different Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas's facilities and all that kind of stuff, and the ability, to use NIL and things of that nature, make everything a lot different nowadays. So, it's just hard to predict.
This was 3 or 4 years ago. It was an article I'd read talking about the 10 most watched college football games in the Houston area. 8 of them were SEC games.
Yeah.
Is that right?
And so, I mean, the SEC has been big all over.
But that's because Texas A&M's in the SEC now, and it's what, an hour from Houston?
Yeah. But still, I mean,
Baton Rouge isn't far from Houston either.
The exposure is there for everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. But if you go all the way back to the early 1960s, in the 50s, Arkansas couldn't get anybody out of Texas. And in 1960, they beat Texas at Austin, and that opened the doors. Coach Broyles said that many times, and all of a sudden you're seeing good players from Texas that would never have considered Arkansas started coming to Arkansas. Mm-hmm. So let's go back to Texas coming into the league, and Arkansas is going to play them in 2024. how big would a victory over Texas go towards establishing the fact that Arkansas's program is as good or better than Texas with players coming out of Texas?
Well, I think it'd definitely make an impact. I mean, just winning, period.
Yeah.
Just winning football makes you more appealing. But, you got to have the funds these days. I mean, there's no question about that. I think one of the good things about NIL is, whether you want to call it cheating or what, everybody's cheating. So,
well, is that the equivalent of
makes
wet
it harder
hot
to be a
dog
cheater.
buns? Is it the equivalent of wet hot dog buns?
It's not as gross.
Trey, one question for you here.
But it's still legal, and wet hot dog buns is technically legal.
Any word on Kane Archer out of Greenwood?
No, I haven't heard any update on Kane Archer lately.
Well, it's good that you haven't.
There's a lot of good young quarterbacks in this state.
Yeah, good that you haven't heard much update because the music's playing. That'll save you about a 3-minute explanation on it.
We'll have a great Independence Day, guys.
You enjoy July
Trey.
4th, Trey, and we will talk to you Wednesday. Ray and I'll be back
Bye,
ready
guys.
for your calls after this on Drive Time Sports.
Double R, Randy Rainwater is off today. Rick Schaeffer along with Ray Tucker. And we talk with Stuart now from Saracen Casino Resort down in Pine Bluff. Stuart, you ready for a big holiday?
I am. And we're serving up some baseball this week. We've got NBA Summer League just underway. We've got Wimbledon in the second day of the singles right now. Lots to bet on if you're a sport fan.
Now, when you made mention of Wimbledon, there can't be many prop bets in tennis, can there?
There are some. Let me take a look and see what we have up right now. We've got looks like we've got about 8 or 9 of them up right now. Various combinations of wins and scores.
When we talk about soccer, you all do soccer too?
Oh, we sure do. We do leagues from around the world on soccer, so we always have something up on that.
Major League All-Star game is around the corner. Did you have prop bets on who might make the All-Star team? Am I way offline on that?
We didn't do a whole lot on that, but we will have a whole lot of different props up for the game itself to make it fun for people to watch and be able to play various prop bets on their favorite players as they're playing the game on Tuesday.
I would guess people would jump all over the home run derby.
They really do, and that's a lot of fun. We'll have all that stuff up just a little bit later in the week. We just found out last night who all is going to be where, and they're just announcing the final grouping in the home run derby. We had that up last year, and there were a lot of people having a lot of fun with that.
Stuart, always a pleasure to talk to you. Talk to you again tonight on Ray Tucker's Arkansas Outdoors about 7:20. Enjoy the evening, and hey, we'll talk later.
All right, thank you.
All right, folks, don't forget, download the app, betsaracen.com. Rick?
That's Ray Tucker. I'm Rick Schaeffer. Randy Rainwater's off today. We've got 90 minutes of open lines. Now, Ray and I can just babble about whatever we want to, or you can call us and ask us any sports question or just talk about what you want to. 501-661-1037. You can even call us and tell us what you're going to do for the 4th of July. What are you going to do for the 4th of July, Ray?
You know what? I'm going to do I think I'm going to make potato salad, go to a pool party. If there's only about a 50, 60% chance of rain tomorrow, but we had no chance of rain today, and we had showers. So anyway, rain or shine, I'm going to have a good time.
Well, good for you. Well, I got to tell
you. What about you?
We took our those we call them our grandkids. It's just like family. We got 4 of them. They're spending much of the summer with us. We took them last night to Cross Church. They have a fireworks display on Sunday night, and I got to tell you, it's number one, the fireworks display is amazing, and they baptize people at the crosses, and that's cool too. But it was nonstop, bang, 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 with spectacular lights for about 30 minutes. That is a long fireworks display. They had over 10,000 people on the property last night, and getting out of there. Now, you and I are used to, now I know you go to maybe some games as a fan now, but I'm used to leaving so much later than anybody else does. I was actually in my car, not moving for 16 minutes last night. Did not even move. The traffic was just amazing. Because, when it's not like a football game, it's a blowout, or a baseball game that you can leave in the 8th inning, which I would never do, but some people do. You had to wait till you didn't know when the end was coming until the end came.
And that's a grand finale, yeah.
Yeah, so when it did, and it was a grand finale, then everybody left at the same time, and my gosh, that was and they had people directing traffic and all that, but I sat in our car with the kids and my wife 16 minutes before we even moved.
Did they anticipate a crowd that size?
Yes, yeah, they did. And again, they had traffic. It's probably partly where I was parked. It's also interesting to me that I parked probably, I'm going to say maybe a hair closer than I park at a football game. Hey, I would never complain because I like to walk up Razorback Road, but members of our radio crew, now maybe Chuck gets a better deal, but the rest of us we're in a parking lot basically close to the John McDonald track. So it's a pretty good walk. So I'm going to say last night we were maybe about that distance away, and maybe it's because we weren't parked in a place where you could get out that quick. But I know fans, you can hear them all talking about, oh gosh, I couldn't get out of there after a football game, and people say, well, we're going to beat the traffic. Yeah, but you missed the end of the game, which brings us to one of the stories of the day. Just like everybody in the SEC, you're always trying to upgrade your facilities. Arkansas is about to do it with Bud Walton Arena. University of Florida is planning on spending at least $400 million on its football stadium. Evidently, they haven't done a lot of work on it. They have spent about $300 million on baseball, basketball, some of their women's sports facilities, football workout area, but they're planning on spending at least $400 million. And in that spending, as they enlarge concourses, and here's the key, and provide more premium opportunities. Whenever you see that word premium, you better get ready to get your wallet out, because that's what it means. It means it's going to cost more. And they're talking about the fan experience, the premium fan experience, which means it's going to cost more, but they're going to lose some seats. They're going to lose seats. And I wonder if that's going to be a trend for teams in all sports in college, as they depend more and more on TV money, and they still depend on attendance and obviously the game experience. But I wonder if we're going to see that in all sports in college athletics, reducing seats, but making the seats that are available considerably more expensive. What do you think?
Now, Florida's stadium originally was old. They expanded to 90,000 a good while back.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody says they have the best atmosphere at their stadium. And Florida says that too. And
Right.
So you're going to spend, and they did say $400 million, but
at least,
but with economic times the way they are now and inflation or whatever, it's going to cost them a lot more than $400 million.
It could be $500 million.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
what's $100 million here or there, right?
But now you're doing this right in the middle of NIL, where everybody's asking somebody for more and more and more money. And it's not a case where the rich get richer. You may be rich, but you're going to give up a bunch of it. And so, hey, tell me a little bit more about, what do you know about Bud Walton and the expansion there? Because you told me earlier when we were talking, they're going to lose seats there too.
Yeah, they're talking about anywhere from 1,000 to 1,800 seats. So you would go from 19,200 to somewhere between 17.4 and 18, probably around 18 would be maximum. So again, I can share, if this is repetitive, I'm sorry, but through the years, you forget what you've told people. 1990, Arkansas is going to the SEC. Bud Walton visited Frank Broyles. What do you need? What's the facility that you need? And let's just say this, Bud and Sam, Sam gets all the credit because Bud liked to be in the background. He didn't care if anybody knew he was a Walton. He didn't care if anybody knew he was just as involved with Sam. Okay, so he just liked to go bird dog hunting, and so or use his bird dog to go hunting. So anyway, Coach Broyles told him, well, our biggest need is we've got to do something with Barnhill or build a new arena. And we know that discussion led to, well, what would it cost to build a new arena? And Coach Broyles said $30 million, and Bud said, I'll give you half of it. And then he went hunting. That was it. And so Arkansas builds this fabulous facility. Now, here's what is kind of the untold story. I think I've shared much of this before, but it hadn't been made that much public. But since I was there, I know what was happening. The original intent, Coach Broyles had a design to take Barnhill Arena from 9,000 to somewhere between 12,500 and 13,000. And so his original thought was, okay, if you build a new one, let's go ahead and go with 15,000. Well, if you look back at when Arkansas, 1990, 91, 92, the football team wasn't very good. The basketball team was great. And so the demand for tickets at Barnhill was ridiculous. The waiting list was, and honestly, you weren't going to get a ticket at Barnhill. If Arkansas had stayed at Barnhill, even when they slipped a little bit, in Nolan's later years, you weren't going to get a ticket. There's just 9,000 tickets. And I think about 1,500 of them were for students. So what he did, Coach Broyles did, was he sent out a card to every season ticket holder, not only in basketball, but also football, and to everybody on the waiting list. And he said, if tickets became available in this new arena, would you buy them? Well, he was, again, expecting, hey, wouldn't it be great if we knew up front that we could sell 15 or 16,000 tickets to season ticket holders? And the cards kept coming back, and they kept coming back, and they kept coming back. And so what he did was he talked to the architects and says, how can we get more seats into this arena? And they kept figuring it out, to the point when they got to the 19,200 was it. They could absolutely not put another seat in there. And that included the skyboxes at the time. And at the time it was built, there were more seats for an arena with a roof the height that Bud Walton was than any place in America, any place in the world, because they got seats wherever you could put them. And I remember right before it opened, Dale Nicholson, who was the general manager at KATV at the time, and Arkansas and KATV were tight-knit partners, came up and he said, take me to the worst seat in this arena. And so I did. I took him up to the, I'm trying to think, it would be the southeast corner on the very top row where you could buy a ticket. And we sat down, and he said, now this is a guy that's used to being treated really well. He said, this is the worst seat in this arena? And I said, yes, because the other thing that people didn't realize is the highest seat in Bud Walton Arena is closer to the floor than the highest seat in Barnhill was. That's how this thing was structured. So obviously Arkansas goes in, first year wins the national championship, second year they're playing for the national championship. Again, you couldn't get a ticket, 19,200, and you could not get a ticket. And so that was a good capacity. But since then, it's been a little bit tougher, and now they're talking about reducing capacity. We can continue on that or anything else you'd like to talk about Drive Time Sports when we return after this. Well, I hope our listeners are enjoying us. Let's talk about history of Bud Walton Arena here. Ray Tucker, Rick Schaeffer, you're welcome to join us at 501-661-1037. Ray, I'll conclude without making this too long that, once again, it's now tougher to sell out because there's so much TV. Arkansas is really good. The last 3 years, they've been really good again. So they've had several sellouts. The last 2 years, they've sold out the arena on a season basis, but that doesn't mean people show up all the time, and you want to do that. So I think when you asked, your original question was, what are they going to do? And I think I don't know what they can do with the concourses are already pretty wide. Maybe they'll update some of the displays that are in there. But I think the main thing is they want more suites. And let's use that word again. It's called premium. And it's such a nice word. There's more demand for premium seating. You know what that means? It means there are more people that now have money that would like those seats, which also means that for people that maybe have been there for a long time and maybe they don't have as much, they can't contribute as much as they used to, better buy a nice TV because they'll get their capacity somewhere. I'm going to guess it'll end up around 17.5, and they'll somehow get more suites in. And I don't know if they can figure out a way to move the media to where they'll have even less access or less visibility. But if there's a way to do it, they possibly would. It reminds me again that things have really changed since our day. Coach Broyles allowed me to have input on where to put the media in the original Bud Walton Arena, and we put them the same place we always put them. We put them right down there on the floor. And so there were 2 rows of press on the south side of the floor. On the north side of the floor was the regular scorers table. And but even, I'm trying to think, even with radio, we were on the east side with all the rest, the south side with all the rest of the media. And the stats crew was on the other side of the floor. But it was really, really nice. And now, of course, radio is right there by Arkansas's bench, and the opposing radio is by the opponent's bench. But everybody else is up in the corner. And, it's okay. You're in the arena, and certainly you shouldn't complain because you didn't pay what everybody else is paying. But now we have what they call Gucci seats, or I don't know if anybody else called them that. I used to call them that, and I think it's kind of caught on to where people pay, I think, I could be wrong on this, but I think it's $12,000 a seat to sit right there courtside. But you're right there, and a player could just sit in your lap if he was diving for a ball out of bounds. So it's definitely a premium seat.
I think one of the worst seats I've ever had was at Lubbock, a Texas Tech game, and Bob Knight was the coach there. Little Rock was playing them, and so I am so used to being courtside. And so I said, well, where will the media sit? And it was way, way, way up in a corner. And there was a table, and there were no chairs. It was just a wooden bench with no back on it.
Wow.
And Bob Knight had taken all those seats and turned them into endowed scholarships. And so then the next worst seat I've ever had was at Louisville, and this is back during COVID. And so I'm in a 20,000 seat, the Yum Center, and there may have been 200 people in the whole arena. And they created a makeshift media area. And of course, I'm the only one there. And when I walk,
You're the only one there.
I'm only media.
And there's 200 people in the arena.
Yeah. And
my gosh.
So they had me so high. And first of all, there was no lighting. They created a makeshift booth, and there was no lighting in there. And of course, you got drop-ins you got to read. And so I had enough time, and I'd met somebody earlier there. And so I found this guy. He was assistant manager. And so they brought some floor lights in there so I could have lighting. Now, they had a giant scoreboard. Now, I'm so high, and I'll send you a picture later on today. I was so high that the players looked like they were ants. And so I said to the guy, I said, you know what? I got a real problem here. I can't see the numbers of the players. He said, well, you got the big jumbotron up here, and you just follow it. So the game starts, and everything's good until they ran to the other end of the floor, and they had no camera operator, and so they just ran out of the screen.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me! And our players, their mannerisms, and so I'm just like, oh, this is. And so the next game, they moved. I was able to move down, and here comes this usher, and now there's 200 people in this 20,000 seat arena, and he says you have to wear a mask, and I said I'm not wearing a mask to broadcast a basketball game. And so he and I got into it just a little bit. I won because I wasn't wearing a mask, and when anybody near me.
Wow.
So,
wow. Well, when I was still doing basketball, I think I'm sure. I think it was Chuck had taken Mike Nell's place at that point. Arkansas played Seton Hall in some kind of challenge game. I don't know if it was with the Big East or anyway, and the game was played in the Yum Center. And of course, the best thing about a game in the Yum Center is it's on the same block as the Louisville Slugger Museum.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got a chance to go see the Louisville Slugger Museum. That was really cool. But anyway, and maybe because it was a neutral game, Louisville wasn't involved, but we were right down on the court, on the floor level. So it was okay. I remember this being a nice experience to go in there.
Well, I would have loved going to the Louisville the Hall of Fame, the Louisville Slugger Hall of Fame. The only problem was we were isolated. We could not leave we went from the hotel into the arena. There was
because you're talking about COVID time.
For 11 days.
Oh my gosh.
Never left the hotel for 11 days.
Wow. Well, this was during John Pelfrey's time as head coach. So it was obviously before COVID. Wow. Isn't that amazing?
And there are other stories. Different schools handled it differently. After being in Louisville for 11 days and isolated, we played at Missouri State, and my seat was right on the floor. And when the guys were warming up and walking by, their rear ends were less than 2 feet away from me. And this is during the COVID. I mean, what, are you kidding? And we had 3 or 4 players test positive just before the game, and they were in a van going back. And so some places isolated us and made us safe, and other places really didn't care.
Wow. Well, on a totally different subject, are you tired of watching Cardinal pitching?
Rick, I don't watch much baseball.
Miles Michaelis is the one guy they've signed beyond this year, and here they are playing the Florida Marlins or the Miami Marlins, whichever they go by these days. And the Marlins have already scored 2 runs, have a runner in scoring position with a couple out. And Michaelis with Adam Wainwright is certainly not what he once was. And I don't mind that he's pitching this year. That's fine because they're not very good. But Michaelis is supposed to be their ace. And it seems like every time I watch and he pitches, the other team lights him up. Now, maybe it doesn't happen every time he pitches. Obviously, he hadn't lost every game he started, but you're sitting there thinking, can the Cardinal pitching staff get any worse? I just don't know. And now the one guy that is pitching well is McCormick, but he's a free agent after this year, so they're talking about trading him. Of course, the big guy that's pitching the best on then you got to get rid of him, right?
Right.
Maybe you're a healthier man not watching baseball.
What about the manager?
Yeah, I'd say that would be questionable too. Well, we can discuss that and anything you'd like to talk about. 501-661-1037 on Drive Time. Welcome back to Drive Time Sports. Hope you're having a wonderful July the 3rd. Maybe everybody's already outside waiting for the latest fireworks displays. I know they'll go on at many, many places tonight. They'll go on tomorrow night. We had our big bangs last night at the Cross Church 4th of July celebration. And I know anybody that's in baseball, if you go to a major league park or you go to a minor league park, I know tomorrow night the Arkansas Naturals, Northwest Arkansas Naturals, they're at home. They're going to be doing a big 4th of July thing. But anyway, today's the 3rd of July. Randy Rainwater's out. I'm Rick Schaeffer, and joined by
Ray Tucker on Drive Time Sports is brought to you by Gwatney Buick GMC.
Cardinals have struck back. They've scored a run in the second. They're down 2-1. I didn't tell you how that first game finished. I was talking about Houston and Texas. They were in the 4th game of their series. Houston was trying for its 3rd out of 4. They led 10-2. They trailed 11-10. They scored 2 in the top of the 9th, and they held the lead and beat the Rangers 12-11. So all the nighttime baseball starting now. Luis Ariz, by the way, the Florida Marlins, and again, we are a long way from the end of the season. But he got a base hit his first time up, and that lifted his batting average to 390 again. I don't know if we'll ever see anybody hit 400. We started off the program talking about these two absolute superstars who have separated themselves in Shohei Ohtani and Ronald Acuna Jr., and their numbers are just astonishing. But Ariz didn't get a lot of – he's only hit 3 home runs, so people don't think of him maybe in the same status, and you wouldn't. But, if the guy stays in the 390s and gets close to 400 as we get into, say, August and September, I think there's going to be a lot of attention paid to that, even though he plays for the Florida Marlins. What do you think, Ray?
I think there will be a lot of attention on that. Coming off my intro, I wanted to do this very quickly, if you don't mind.
Okay, go right ahead.
2023 GMC Sierras up to $8,000 off MSRP. That's right now at Gwatney Buick GMC. 2023 GMC Acadia up to $6,000 off MSRP. All Buicks discounts up to $7,000. Rates as low as 2.9 this holiday week. Head out to Gwatney Buick GMC.
What better way to spend a 4th of July than buying a new vehicle, right?
I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think so, too. It's really good.
There'll be fireworks all over our city tomorrow night. There's Pops on the River, which is an annual event down on the Arkansas River, which is a fabulous deal. And I'm sure if the weather's 60%, I'm just looking right now, we've got storms popping up all over central Arkansas. And so hopefully things don't get rained out. I know Chenal Country Club, Pleasant Valley Country Club have a heck of a fireworks show. And so if you go out there, folks, be safe, take the proper attire or whatever. And if you see storms coming up and lightning and whatever, hey, get in your car. And they may not like me for saying that, but I'm just telling you. You see crazy things. Back to your story about Bud Walton and Coach Broyles. I know when our delegation went up from the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame, we were getting ready to build a Sports Hall of Fame museum. Went up and met with Coach Broyles. I've never called him Frank. I always called him Coach.
Nobody ever called that. Maybe only his wife and maybe some very long-time friends called him by his first name.
And so we sat down with him, and the thing we wanted to talk about was relationships. He said, raising money is all about relationships, and which he did, and he was absolutely fantastic about it. But he was telling us that he'd met with Bud Walton, and you said the amount was what? How many million? 15 million.
15 million,
and he told Frank, he said, I'll do half. And Frank said, $500,000? He said, no, half of what you need.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And what was funny about that, I learned when I've worked for a couple nonprofits, and they say if somebody gives you stock, you're supposed to sell it right away, because it's that way. They're saying, so if Bud Walton gave them $30 million in Walmart stock, the thought process is you better sell it now, because there's the chance it could go down.
Mm-hmm.
There's always the chance it could go up. It's my understanding they did hold it for a while, and Walmart stock was still going up, and it ended up being worth more than $15 million. So, the cost was $30 million. It's my understanding it was worth a little bit more than $15 million by the time they sold the stock. Because that's, if you're somebody in that category, and I'm not, but that's a great way of giving without having to pay taxes on capital gains and all of that. So there was probably a lot of that with some of the people that were the early investors in Walmart, possibly. But I know that Bud, that's how he gave his gift, and it worked out really, really well.
I don't know where the worst seat is in Bud Walton, but I can tell you this. I went as a fan with a group of guys from Little Rock one time. I'm going to say we're playing LSU. I sat in the end zone, and my seat was one of the few in the entire arena that I could not see the rim on the other end of the floor.
You were blocked a little bit?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could not see the rim. And the only way I knew the ball went in was the reaction of the crowd.
Yeah.
And it absolutely drove me nuts.
Well, I obviously didn't think to take Dale Nicholson to that seat because I was thinking, let's go to the farthest away from the court. And it's amazing that seat was better.
He had a nice luxury suite too.
Well, he did. When you talk about seating and historical places, that's why when people talk about, oh, you got to go to Fenway Park, and it's a great experience. And there's all these vendors outside the ballpark. The smells are just absolutely wonderful. You go in the ballpark, and here's the thing about a ballpark that was built in 1912 is you can think that you've got a really great seat and find out that you're sitting behind a pillar. And they don't move those things. That's still that's how they held up the park in 1912, and that's how it holds up in 2023.
Same thing for Wrigley Field.
Yeah, Wrigley Field's got a couple of those too. You're exactly right.
And a lot of the old ballparks had that.
Yeah. Now I don't know. Now I haven't been to Wrigley Field since 1970. My grandparents used to live up there, and I got a summer job there when I was in college. And I went to a lot of games at Wrigley Field. In fact, I saw the only triple steal I've ever seen. The Mets pulled it that year against the Cubs. But have they not done some renovation of the ballpark to eliminate those seats where you're blocked from viewing the
I've not
field?
been up there in about 10, 15 years myself, so I can't say immediately whether they have or not. I just know the couple times I've been, I have noticed that they have had those obstructed view seats.
Yeah.
And that is the voice of Todd Pierce, our producer today. Yeah. And so, Todd, feel free to jump in here anytime you want to.
Yeah. Well, that is interesting about Wrigley because it's been a long time since and of course, last time I was there, they didn't have lights, and obviously they do now, and it's still the great experience, but they've got this huge scoreboard now, just like everybody else. And the people that lived in the apartments behind it that used to just get out on their deck and watch, the ones that had apartments behind where the scoreboard is now no longer have that great view. So they've done a lot of things to modernize it. They always used to say it was the worst visiting clubhouse. There was no place that you could take batting practice underneath. And but I do know when the people that I'm trying to think, is it the Richard family?
The Ricketts family? Yeah.
Ricketts family, yeah, that now owns the stadium and owns the Cubs. They made some major improvements to the stadium.
Yeah, that's where they put the bullpens now, is underneath.
Yeah.
And Rick, you know who has season tickets to the Cubs games? Trey Schaeffer.
No.
Yes.
What?
He has season tickets to the Cubs games.
He has season tickets to the Cubs?
Yep.
So what does he do? Does he?
You sell them.
Yeah. Todd, by the way, we got the phones ringing there. Yeah. So.
But he
sells them on StubHub or however he wants to.
Yeah, he and Joe Foley, who's a Cardinal fan.
Yeah.
Joe and his wife, and Trey and his wife, just flew to London and watched the Cubs and Cardinals for two games. Yep. Wow. And I don't know if they got on St. Andrews or not, but they were playing some of the famed golf courses over there.
Wow. Goodness, what a deal. How about that? Okay, let's see. I know this is not Joe DiMaggio because he's no longer with us, but this is Joltin' Joe in Little Rock. So Joltin' Joe, you're on the air. Oh, it's JoJo, not Joltin' Joe. It's JoJo. Yeah. We know you, of course.
Hey, Rick, I think in the paper where they said that they was going to do renovation or something to Bud Walton out to the 2025.
Yes.
Did I see that?
Yes, you did. We were talking about it a little bit, and probably they're not going to start they're getting architects' drawings, they're getting bids. They figure minimum of $50 million. could be as much as $100 million, depending on
Holy
how their
cow.
how their fundraising goes. And I know the Razorback Foundation is going to probably go on a campaign to raise money for this. They're obviously, there's going to be more luxury seating, premium seating as they call it. They're probably going to get rid of about 1,500 seats. So the capacity is probably going to go somewhere around anywhere from 17.4 to 17.7. But what they're going to do is they're going to start the whole project immediately after the last game in March of 2020. That would be not March of 2025. And it would not be ready probably till January of 2026. Now, I don't know if that means they would play some games in Barnhill, or if they would schedule all road games up to that point. But that's the project.
Well, that's the question you answered for me, because I was just wondering, would it be finished by the time the season started? And you answered it. It won't. So I appreciate it, Rick.
Okay, JoJo, thanks for calling. No, that arena is not going to be ready for the start of the 25-26 season, but they're doing all the preliminary work. I have no idea all the things that are going to be involved. Obviously you take some seats out, how you put suites in. I'm certainly no architect, but somebody who's more brilliant than I am will figure that out. And all I know is that, as you just said, obviously Dale Nicholson's no longer with us, but the people that have the suites there are, they'll probably pay a little more for them. What do you think?
I think that, well, they will.
Yeah.
I'm going to change from now on. I'm going to introduce you as Rick Premium Schaeffer.
Well, it's such a funny thing that anytime you hear the word premium, it's going to cost more. It just is, right? I mean, you can go to a restaurant, and if it says, this is a premium steak, okay, then it's going to cost more than a regular steak. But what's the difference? I don't know. I'm sure there's some difference there. But anytime the word premium comes in, you can expect to pay more for it.
And I have not been a long time fan where I'm in the stands or at a basketball game, whatever, football. And I'm just blown away when you see an NBA game or NFL, what people pay for tickets. I was watching the NBA playoffs. The Lakers were playing, and they showed somebody on courtside, and they said courtside seats were going for $30,000.
Oh my gosh!
And I went, really?
For a game?
Yes.
For one game?
Yeah, that's what I understood.
Wow.
Well,
I tell you, when you look at tickets, and I've we're both in the same boat. We for a long time didn't buy tickets. Now, anytime I go to a baseball game, I buy tickets now. That's why I like going to Kansas City. They're a terrible team, but boy, their tickets are the least expensive. The Ranger tickets aren't bad either. Cardinal tickets are higher. But
yeah, that was a pretty penny. I just gave up. I'm going to Cubs Cardinals later in the month.
Yeah, I'll bet you did. But my wife coached tennis for years. She loves tennis, and neither of us really have bucket lists. I'd like to go back to the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. I was there in 1981, and obviously a lot's happened in the last 40 years. I'd like to go back and see it, but if I don't, it's okay. But the one thing that she really would like to do is go to the U.S. Open tennis tournament in Forest Hills, New York, which is, I guess it is in New York City, or it's right outside of New York City. So I looked into it this year, and the timing to go would be, I don't know if CBS never starts its college football coverage until after the finals of Wimbledon. So the first weekend of SEC football is never on TV on the CBS, because that's the finals weekend at Wimbledon, or excuse me, at the U.S. Open. So I looked at right after Arkansas's opening game, September 2nd, we could go up on Labor Day, go to tennis for 2 days, the 4th and the 5th, or 5th and 6th, something like that, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm sure Randy let me out of drive time for a couple nights. So I looked at, you look into travel and hotel and all that, and it was fairly reasonable. Then I got the tickets. Now this was 2 months ago I was looking into this. Tickets for the quarterfinals, not the semifinals, not the finals, the quarterfinals. If you want to sit anywhere on the sideline, and then there's a lower and there's an upper. If you want to sit anywhere on the sideline in the lower, this is 2 months ago. I don't know what it is now. The minimum was $1,500 a ticket.
Do what?
Minimum was $1,500 a ticket, and it went up. And if you wanted to sit in prime seats, now you're not talking about $30,000, but you're talking about $5,000 or $6,000 a ticket. And so I looked and thought, okay, well, what if we sit a little further back? And even those tickets went anywhere from, I think the lowest price I saw was kind of in the corner, for upper corner, for about $300 a ticket. So
you're in New York.
Yeah, that's culture shock for those of
Yes.
us who don't go to things like that very often. Yeah, to see, basically, I guess it's that center court. I think the U.S. Open's like a lot of them. They have different places where they play. And so that was the best court, obviously. Okay, let's go to Brent in Little Rock. Brent, thanks for calling us.
Yep, Todd's already got him punched up.
Talk
Sorry
to you
about that.
guys.
Go ahead, Brent.
So, hey, since you guys are talking about baseball, I'm actually going to go visit Fenway here on the 22nd for my first time ever, man. And I got actually tickets in the right field. Obviously, you can't get anything on the Green Monster there, but I'm really looking forward to it. And I was wondering if you guys had any suggestions, especially Rick, since you've actually been to a game there. And Ray, I don't know if you have or not.
Who are the Red Sox playing when you go?
They're playing the Mets.
Okay,
So
I was going to say.
Mets aren't great, but
no, that's okay.
I'm actually a Braves fan, but I couldn't pass up this opportunity. You know, it's my first time ever going to be in Boston, so I had to buy a ticket.
All right, if you don't mind me asking, how much was the ticket?
I got each seat for $105, but like I got row 38, seat 4, or row 4. I'm sorry. So I'm actually I'm 4 rows up from the outfield. So it's actually, I thought it was worth the money to buy. You know?
Listen, 105 for that ticket's pretty good. You know, the Red Sox are, by their standards, they're way back in the race, but they're still one game over 500, so they have a decent team. And you might say, hey, if you see the Mets, you might get to see Justin Verlander or Max Scherzer pitch. You never know about that. Okay, so two tips. Number one, get there.
I'm sorry.
It's a Saturday game? Saturday? That's good.
Yeah, it's a Saturday game. There was 2. I could have gotten a Friday game or a Saturday game. Friday, I'm going up to Portland, Maine to go take a look at the coast up there. So
great.
I wanted to save that last little bit for having a good way to end my trip in Boston.
Well, so a couple tips. Number one, Boston's a great history city. They have this place where you just follow the red brick, and that'll take you to all these historic places. You walk. I can tell you that one of the most enjoyable things I've ever done in my life is gone whale watching. And so you go down. They've got it's right next to their aquarium, and their aquarium's really good. But right next to it, you can go buy a ticket, get on a boat. You'll go out for about 30 minutes. And then you'll start seeing them now, and it'll be in season. This is in season for you. I've gone twice. The first time I went was amazing. The whales came up almost right around the boat, because they travel together. And you're watching. There may not be a more beautiful thing in nature than to see a whale dive and that tail comes up in the air outside the water. It is absolutely stunning to watch. The second time
we didn't. Chills, Rick. I'm excited now.
Brent, if you do that, it will be one whale of a trip.
The second time we didn't get quite as close to the whales, but it was still really enjoyable. So you go out for about 30 minutes, you see whales for about 30 or 45 minutes, and then they bring you back in. But that's a very enjoyable thing. The history is really great. You can go to Paul Revere's house. You can go to Old North Church. You can go to all those kind of things. But when you're going to the Red Sox game, go early. The best food, now this is the way it used to be, is outside the stadium, because the food inside the stadium is very expensive. But as you're walking outside the stadium, I mean, you're downtown Boston, and all the vendors are lined up out there, and they're cooking sausages and hot dogs and burgers and all that kind of stuff. And now, if you're a Braves fan, you might not care about getting a Red Sox souvenir, but right across the street from where you would go in on the first base side has got to be the biggest souvenir store I've ever seen in my life. And if you want anything that has a Red Sox on it, you're going to find it in there. So if you're looking for something to bring home, a jersey or a T-shirt or something, they're all in there.
Just charge it to Pat Bradley when you go in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Would you buy Pat Bradley a new Red Sox hat? His is pathetic.
Well, you know, his probably got all that luck on it. He's probably trying to hold on to it for luck. Yeah,
they need luck.
Just out of curiosity, I hate to keep you on the phone, but do you remember how much that whale trip cost?
Well, the last time I went was probably 10 years ago, and I'm going to say it was about $40 then. I don't know what it would be today.
It's probably about 100. Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it, man. You got me all psyched up for it. It was fun. Thanks for the call.
Have a great time. All right, Brent. All right. That shows we'll talk about anything when you call us on Drive Time Sports. We hope you'll do so when we return after this timeout. Welcome back to Drive Time Sports. Ray Tucker, Rick Schaeffer, and a man who's been to Wrigley Field many times, Woo Pig. Hi, Woo Pig. You're on the air.
Hi. Listen, we got a lull here. I really miss things now that baseball is shut down. You know, it's just a big lull, and it's going to be hard to get over. I guess we're going to have to insert a little golf in here somewhere.
You know, Woo Pig, I am sitting here watching the Cardinals play the Marlins. Baseball has not been shut down, maybe Razorback baseball, but, and you're a Cub fan, baseball has not been shut down. They're still playing every day.
Well, that was my second thought. Now, Christopher Morel, I just think he's awesome. And you probably know it, but he has left arm, I believe, has 2 scars on it and wants to cause his fingers to close up. So if you look at him while he's out there in the field, he's opened his hands up and he keeps pushing back on his glove. And that's because and he's playing with an injury that he can't do anything about. It's always going to be there. So it's just amazing that he's still out there doing what he's doing. And he's hitting home runs. I kind of like the guy. He's a little spark plug.
Yeah.
So St. Louis, what happened to Molina? He retired?
To who?
Yadier Molina.
Oh, yeah, he did retire after last year, yes. And so
Yeah,
the Cub catcher, Contreras, went to the Cardinals, yeah. And he's hitting about 215.
And the Cubs catcher, Contreras, when he first was there and he played against him at St. Louis,
right,
he worshipped Yadier.
Yeah.
And he just thought that he was the greatest thing since bread.
He was.
Yeah. Well, he's
Contreras. And for him to go there, he's kind of like Lou Brock going to St. Louis. They always get our good players.
Well, it doesn't compare because Contreras is hitting about 215 right now. That's Lou Brock never hit 215.
Now, Drew Smiley, he's doing all right with the Cubs. He's back up there. You got Hendricks. Brad Hendricks came back and from his surgery. And you got the ace. Now, if the Cubs had put some runs on the board, I think we'd be all right.
Yeah, Drew Smiley is having a good year for them. He was the losing pitcher today against Milwaukee.
Now, Rick, I haven't heard a word you said because I've got a little, I'm not going to use the word crappy. Never mind.
Drew Smiley is
having a terrible phone, and it's just always good talking with you. I know that you're looking for people to call in. You know, you're begging people to call in. So here I am.
Okay. Thanks, Woo Pig.
Y'all have a good 4th of July. And right. You guys out there boating, you stay safe and give a wide berth to the other boaters and to the swimmers.
Okay. Thanks, Woo Pig. Need to tell him maybe he's listening now that he's off the air. Drew Smiley is having a good year for the Cubs, but he was the losing pitcher today as they lost to Milwaukee 8-6. Let's go to Gene. Thanks for calling, Gene.
Good afternoon, guys.
Hi, Gene.
Gene, we do not have a tin cup. We're not begging, okay?
That's right. But we do appreciate our callers.
Yes, we do.
Hey, it's July 3rd and everybody's off tomorrow. We get it.
Everybody but us.
That's right.
There you go. Yeah, we were talking about ticket prices. I was just going to share this. I wanted to go to a basketball game. My neighbor and I did this late winter. We wanted to go to a conference game, so we looked at tickets and had to go through Vivid Seats, third party. Shouldn't have mentioned them, but anyway, we sat on the lower level, but like towards the top of the lower level, home side behind the bench. Thought they were pretty good seats, but it was $404 a piece.
Oh my gosh!
Plus parking and gas and all that driving up the circuit, and it cost us about $1,000. So I was disappointed. Arkansas, Florida, we ended up winning pretty handily, and it was, decent, but for the money, it just wasn't a good product. I don't think.
Wasn't $1,000 game then?
Pardon me?
It wasn't worth $1,000 then.
No, sir, you're right. It was not worth $1,000. And my neighbor, I ended up furnishing. I mean, I treated him, and he thought he's an older gentleman, and he thought they were $20 a piece or something, $50 or something. So he goes, "You want to go have the gas?" I said, "No, I'll get it. Don't worry about it." So, but yeah, it's just not a good product. And my question is too. My comment was that. My question is, And there's a lot of seats around us that were empty for whatever reason. And is there not a box office you could have gone up there and bought tickets the day of the game?
I don't know if they still do this, but they used to. If you weren't coming to the game, you called the ticket office and they would resell them for you. And I think you would get your original price. Say if it was a $20 ticket, you'd get your $20 and the athletic department get the rest of it. So it's like double selling. But I don't know if they still do that or not. I'm sure there were some people that complained about that, especially if you're buying it through the department and you're paying more than face value for it. So I don't know if they do that anymore, because it's a lot better than, it's funny. If you go to a game that there's plenty of tickets, you can go to StubHub and they're maybe even less than face value. If you go to a game that is fairly popular, you're always going to pay usually more than double the face value, sometimes a lot more.
Yeah. Well, I was, like I said, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
Razorbacks won and everything, but I felt like it wasn't a good use of my money, to do that. But,
so if they had won, would it have been worth your money?
No, they did win.
If they hadn't won, no, they did win. So.
Oh, well, I thought you said they didn't win.
No, they did win.
No, they won. They beat Florida handily, yes. But yeah.
But that's where I've wondered, and so far it hadn't happened. But as you see, even schools reducing capacities in stadiums or arenas or anything else, are they concerned that fewer fans are going to come? So therefore, the elite fans that say, hey, I will pay more if you'll give me a suite, or if you'll get me, do you cater to that crowd, knowing that some like you, or like I would be if I weren't working the games, who can't sit there and spend a lot of money on tickets, fewer and fewer of those people are going to come. And so you cater to the ones that can come, and obviously they want premium seating. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of this construction like it is around college athletics.
All right, let me throw this out there. Arkansas Duke in November at Bud Walton. What do you think a ticket's going to go for?
Well, yeah, now you're still at $19,200, but I got to believe that if you're a season ticket holder and you've got those tickets and you want to sell them, they could go. They could go for. I mean, he just said he paid $405 for a Florida ticket. They could go for $1,000 a ticket, don't you think, for Arkansas and Duke?
Wow.
I'm not buying one.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I'll be watching on TV. If you like Rick, you can come down and watch it with me, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not either, but somebody will.
Yeah, and it's on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's on a Wednesday night. But it's Arkansas and Duke. Duke's never been to Fayetteville, so it's a big deal.
I just heard from my friend LB. He said he'll buy us a couple of tickets.
But Coach K's not there anymore. He might be there as a spectator, but he's not there.
Well,
yeah,
he's not. But it's still the name that counts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you didn't like the $400 ticket, I wouldn't start looking for Arkansas Duke tickets.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some really good high school basketball games and some really good D2 games that on a high school championship or a D2 games, that were, very good. And actually they were better than this Razorback game. But
yeah, sure.
Anyway, you have that. I don't fault the players. It just wasn't a good product for money, I don't think. But,
yeah.
What day of the week is that Arkansas Duke game? Do you know?
He said it's a Wednesday night.
A Wednesday night. Okay.
It's a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's a Wednesday.
Be a big deal. At least they're staying away from football Wednesday night. It's I think isn't it the last Wednesday in November? I believe so. So football's actually over. So that's quite a, so many times your non-conference season, you have a hard time grabbing anybody's attention because football's still in everybody's mind. But think about this: before that game is even played, Arkansas is playing in a tournament in the Bahamas. It's called the Battle for Atlantis. And listen to the field. North Carolina, Michigan, Villanova, Memphis, Texas Tech, Stanford, and Northern Illinois got in there somehow, and Arkansas. That's before they even play Duke. That's a pretty illustrious field. That'll be in the Bahamas.
All right, Gene, I don't know if you're typing or whatever. What are you doing there?
No, I'm just driving, but I can barely hear you guys. I'm just
All right,
doors grabbing.
all right,
Yeah.
we got it.
Anyway.
All right.
Very good. All right, we're close to a break.
Anyway, I'm gonna jump off here, guys. But anyway,
All right,
enjoy
Gene.
your show.
All right, thanks,
For
Gene.
calling.
All right, take
Thanks
care.
for calling. Yeah. So the question is, all right, Ray, is your absolute favorite team other than Arkansas? Is it the Cowboys? Or is there somebody else you like even
that I
better?
follow the most?
Yeah.
It's probably Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, it's the Dallas Cowboys. If the Dallas Cowboys finally got back to the Super Bowl and you had access to tickets, what's the most you'd pay for them?
You're trying to turn me into a tightwad, aren't you?
No. What's the most?
About,
and that's a question for our listeners. What's the most you would pay
500.
for a ticket?
500.
You'd pay 500.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, you would not be going to the Super Bowl. So you enjoy it on TV. You would not get a ticket for 500 unless Jerry Jones helped you out, which that could happen because you and Jerry are buddies. But although who knows how many people ask him. But the question is, how much would you pay for your favorite team playing in the game? So let's say if it's Arkansas playing in the national championship football game, national championship basketball game, if you're Trey Schapp and you're a Cub fan and it's the 7th game of the World Series, or you're a Cardinal fan, or whoever you are, what's the most you would pay for a ticket? Because I'm kind of like you, Ray. I'm thinking, okay, I might go 500 or 600 for a ticket, but the game's on TV. And so, and what's it going to cost to park? What's a hotel going to cost? There's a lot of things just besides paying an outrageous price for a ticket. So,
get me a parking pass. That's what I want.
So if you're thinking about it, what's the most you would pay for a ticket to your favorite team? We only have one segment left. Should have asked that earlier. At any rate, we'll be back with the final segment of Drive Time Sports. Welcome back to Drive Time Sports. We mentioned Jerry Jones just a minute ago. I don't know if you knew this, Ray, but they're going to do a documentary on Jerry Jones and his time since he bought the Cowboys way back when. And they're going to go a lot through the early 90s with evidently never seen before interviews with guys like Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin. They're great players. From other people. Jerry's going to be very involved in it. Evidently, there was bidding for this documentary. But Netflix and ESPN were the two that came down to the prime bidders. And evidently, Netflix has won, and they're going to pay something like $50 million for this documentary, on Jerry Jones. So there you are, a Cowboy fan. You don't have to spend $500 for a ticket. You can just have Netflix, and there was no release date on this. I just saw this today. No release date on it. Don't know when it'll be out, but evidently it's a big deal, a documentary on Jerry Jones.
Wow, that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. You ought to. I don't know if you talk to him very often, maybe Steve, but you could inquire and say, hey, I heard they're doing a documentary on you. Do you know when it's coming out?
I don't bug Jerry. I don't. If I run into him, we visit, but I don't reach out. I'd really love to go to a Cowboy game this year, but I've never asked him for tickets or anything. Although I did travel with the team to Los Angeles when they played the Raiders at LA Coliseum one year.
I'll bet you wouldn't have any problem getting a ticket if you wanted to get a ticket to a Cowboy game. So we'll see. Now, speaking of movies, this morning I'm on with David Basil. We talked about the Yogi Berra movie, and then he talked about looking forward to see the new Indiana Jones movie. I saw a review on that in the Wall Street Journal that basically says it's horrible, and talked about the last one made, and I agree. The last one made, the fourth one was a series. It was horrible, and so anyway, I was discussing that, and then we were talking about the one next week. The next Mission Impossible movie's coming out. And I don't know about you, I love those movies. And in fact, since number 7's coming out, I'm starting to watch them all over again so I can kind of remember. And I watched number 2 today. I watched number 1 over the weekend. And those, I don't know if you like the Mission Impossible movies, but I think they're just absolutely fantastic. And evidently, Tom Cruise in this one does the most difficult stunt he's ever done. And I thought they only filmed it once, only videoed it once. David was saying they did it 5 or 6 times before they got it right. But he's on a motorcycle and he goes kind of up a ramp and then off a cliff. And everything had to be right. Couldn't have bad wind or anything else. But they did this. It was the first scene shot of the whole movie, because the theory was if they got it right, wonderful. If they got it wrong, there wouldn't be a movie. Because Tom Cruise does all his own stunts. And so he's the one that did this. And they said it was the most dangerous stunt he's ever done. So I'm looking forward to that coming out next week. Do you like those movies?
I do. I like anything's got action in it.
Yeah. Well, this one I'm sure will have action. And I'm sure the Indiana Jones movie has action. But I don't know if you saw the last one, but he was doing stuff. He must have been 65 in that one. And I'm a little past that, so I'm okay with that. But he was doing stuff that 25-year-old guys can't do. So, and I understand it's even worse in this movie. So
I do my own stunts. I do want you to know that.
You do your own, huh?
Yeah. And more than one time I've made a fool out of myself. I can promise you that.
But, it's interesting because we're talking about, would you buy a ticket for an athletic event? Would you pay more? Movie tickets aren't that expensive relative. And I was reading where Top Gun Maverick, basically, Steven Spielberg said that movie saved movies in the theaters, because COVID, people couldn't go. After COVID, people didn't go back. But that movie did the highest ticket sales ever, I guess, $1.5 billion. And I don't know about you. I saw it twice in the theater, and I've seen it once since then. It was just a great movie, but they said that kind of saved movies. So we'll see what happens this summer. We'll see how the Mission Impossible movie does.
Brian Hendricks is in studio for Ray Tucker's Arkansas Outdoors, and he would like to sing "I've Lost That Loving Feeling." Remember that movie?
Close your eyes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough, Brian.
Well, no, that's okay. At least he didn't sing the one that got Tom Cruise upset, Great Balls of Fire, when he saw the guy's son singing the same song that his dad sang. So, but if you want to sing Great Balls of Fire, give it a shot.
Don't have the right backing band for that right now.
Brian is a music aficionado now. I'm going to tell you what, and I'm dead serious when I say that. The two of you need to visit sometime.
The Righteous Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
They're pretty good. Okay, so
Bobby Hatfield, Bill Wendley.
So we just got a couple of minutes left. So why don't you tell us what are you going to do on Ray Tucker's Outdoors?
All right, we're going to talk about trout fishing up on the White River in Mountain View. Alan Thomas is in there with us. I'm not sure what Alan's talking about tonight. He's the ultimate outdoorsman, a friend of Brian's, always fishing and hunting with him.
Absolutely. I love to talk hunting and fishing anytime I have the chance.
Well, tonight is your chance. I got news for you.
Giddy up.
But hey, happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day to everybody out there. Got a lot to celebrate in this country, and I hope everybody's safe. And it's a fantastic, fantastic holiday.
And
do the fish bite when the fireworks are going off?
They love it.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. You can't drop dynamite in the water and say it's 4th of July fireworks. Game warden will get you.
They will get you. But there's something about bombs going off in the air and everything makes a fish bite. I can't really explain why, but it works every time.
Our dogs hate them, but fish like them, huh?
They do. Maybe you need to get some fish to calm down your dogs.
We got Fletcher on here.
Okay.
Fletcher, we're about out of time.
Let's talk to Fletcher.
Ray?
How are you, Fletcher?
Fletcher White.
Ray?
Yes, sir.
Hey, one quick question. My girlfriend's on me real hard to take her up fishing in North Arkansas. Who would you recommend?
Well, what do you want to fish for?
Trout, I guess.
Trout. Well, you can't beat the Little Red River, and our good friend Lowell Myers. If you need a guide, we are all about Lowell Myers and Sore Lip and Mall Guide Service. I think that's not the right one. Lowell Myers, just look him up.
Yeah.
But anywhere up on the White River, especially now when the weather is real hot, that water is always in the 50-degree area. So you got cool coming up off the surface of the water to meet the heat coming down. It's really comfortable to be out there. The fish don't mind the heat. They bite all the time. Some of my best trips have been this time of year. Ray's been along on a few of them. That's what I'd recommend. Anywhere on the White, anywhere on the Little Red.
Do you have anyone you would recommend to contact?
I would.
Survey says.
Yeah, the Craig Yowell is the guide that we use a lot, and we've always had a great relationship with him. His last name is Yowell, and they operate. I would call it the Cotter Trout Dock. They're hooked up with all those people there and can hook you up with anybody, all the best ones. Cotter Trout Dock.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your help.
All right, Fletcher, be
There
safe,
you
man.
go.
Have a good
Well,
4th of July.
There's an early preview to your show, Ray. Isn't that great?
Hey, you got us going. We're off on a good start. We haven't even started yet.
That's right. And as you just mentioned, I hope everybody in our listening audience has an absolutely fabulous 4th of July. It is a weird broadcast week for us. We're on tonight. We're on Wednesday. We're off Tuesday. How many times do you get off on Tuesday? We are, and we'll all celebrate this great country that we live in. Thanks, Ray. Thanks for a great listening audience tonight. We hope you'll join us Wednesday when we return on Drive Time Sports. Stay tuned for Ray Tucker Outdoors.